Welcome back to the Aversio Experience podcast, where we explore healing, wellness, and the journey of becoming more conscious humans. Today's episode is a little different, and it's one we've been looking forward to.
For a long time on this podcast, we focus primarily on the science and benefits of functional mushrooms, which we love, and that is never going away. But the truth is, the heart of this show has always been something bigger than just mushrooms. It's about the human experience of health, the messy parts, the routines, the habits, the philosophies, and the things that we are learning in real time as we navigate life, wellness, and conscious business right alongside you.
Yeah, and we realized that the most powerful conversations aren't always the perfectly structured ones. Sometimes the most meaningful stuff comes from honest, behind the scenes conversation about how people actually live. So that's what today is, one of our unhinged episodes where we loosen the structure a little, step outside the usual format, and share more of the real human side of health and the experiences that shape us.
Because healing doesn't just come from information. It comes from connection, from storytelling, from learning through each other's experiences.
So settle in, fungi friends. There's a mushroom for every moment, including this one. Now let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Aversio Experience. We want to start somewhere really specific today. We want to describe someone to you. You wake up, you already feel it. It's a low hum of something that's just not quite right. It's not a crisis and it's not a breakdown. Just this persistent, quiet sense that the life you are living and the life you know you are capable of are not the same thing yet. You know what I mean? You have been trying to close that gap for a while now, if you're like me. You've read all of the books, the ones that got recommended so many times that you finally went out and you bought them, you ordered them, you have underlined things in there, you got your highlighter out, and you felt genuinely moved by something. You have sat across from all the practitioners, all of the coaches, the therapists maybe, who said the right things to you. You've even gone to the retreats. You know, I like a retreat. You've done the protocols, you have the morning routines, you have overhauled your diet and your sleep and your relationship with your phone. You have started over on a Monday more times than you can count with real conviction that this time it's going to be different. And for a window, sometimes a few days even, sometimes a few weeks, it was. And then it was not.
And the person we're describing has started to carry something underneath all of that effort. It's a quiet question that they don't always say out loud, whether something is fundamentally wrong with them, whether other people find this easier, whether they're somehow uniquely stuck in a way that just isn't going to change.
Yep. Yeah. And if that is you right now, you're out there listening, or if it has been you at any point, then we want to say something before we say anything else. You are not broken. I know you hear it all of the time, but I want you to feel what that feels like. You are not uniquely resistant to change. You're not someone who is just going to keep cycling through this forever with nothing to show for it. You are a person with a nervous system that has learned to survive in a particular way. That was me. And that survival strategy is the thing that is keeping you stuck. It's not your effort. It is not your intention. It is not some kind of fundamental flaw in who you are, the mechanism. And today we are going to name it. And then we're going to tell you what to do about it.
Okay, let's start with the biology. Let's get some context into what's causing you to feel this way and keep you in this place. Because when we understand what's happening in that path within ourselves, it stops feeling like a personal failure and it starts to feel like a solvable problem. When your nervous system has been running in a state of chronic stress for a sustained period of time. And by that, I mean like a genuine physiological threat response, elevated cortisol, maybe really low cortisol levels at this point, depending on where you are, persistent vigilance or hypervigilance, a body that has learned that calm is suspicious and urgency is normal. It will always reach for the external solution. And it's not that because you're weak, but it's because the nervous system in that state cannot tolerate sitting still. Stillness doesn't feel like rest to a dysregulated system. Stillness feels like a threat. It feels like the very thing that the system has been working to avoid. And sometimes we are actively working to avoid it.
Yes, yes. You are describing old me to a T, Dr. Des.
Yeah, me
So when
too.
that happens, the nervous system reaches, it searches, it moves itself, physically moves you. And that searching itself provides relief because novelty creates a genuine neurological response in our bodies. A new practitioner, a new program, a new approach, there is a real shift in that moment of beginning. And then the novelty wears off and the system returns to its calibrated state. And then the searching starts again.
And this is why the cycle feels so demoralizing because the effort is real and the hope is real. The brief windows of change are real. And then the return to baseline is also real. And it starts to feel like evidence that change isn't possible, but it's actually not evidence of that. It is evidence of a nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do, returning to what it knows as.
And that is such an important distinction because I think there's this massive difference between I cannot change and my system is currently calibrated for a version of me I am ready to leave behind, right? One is a verdict and the other is a starting point. So now let's get into the actual science of what we're talking about here because it's all just science, which makes it so approachable for everyone. No matter what you believe, no matter where you are in your life, it's the science. This is where it gets really interesting. And I think it will reframe some things that may have felt personal for you already, if you're still listening. So I am lucky enough, so grateful to be able to teach some of this material in corporate settings through a company called Neurochange Solutions, which is one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's companies. And this is his corporate training program. So I'm a certified consultant for this now. And every time I walk in a room through this, I watch something shift because most people have spent years in the cycle that we just described without anyone ever explaining the biological mechanism to them. They've just been told to try harder, to do more. And that's not ever the answer.
And trying harder inside a dysregulated system doesn't produce change. It produces more dysregulation within the nervous system.
Yeah. And this is what we see. This is what we see in the world. So here's the first piece. Your body can become physiologically addicted to stress hormones. Dr. Des, you and I were just talking about someone we love in our life right before we started recording today. This isn't just, some made up person we might know. Like these are people in our real lives and in your life too, or maybe you. Right? Being physiologically addicted to stress hormones is not something you might even know about yourself, but could be happening. I'm talking about cortisol, adrenaline, the chemicals that your system releases in threat mode. When you have been running on those hormones long enough, your cells develop more receptor sites for them. Your body begins to anticipate them. And when stress levels drop, your system will unconsciously generate the conditions to bring those hormones back to you. You will actually start looking for the problems in your life, right? That coworker, that student that's disruptive, that bad relationship, to feel that again. Because familiar, even when it's painful, registers as safe to your nervous system.
And this is why someone can leave a relationship that clearly wasn't working and walk straight into one that is almost identical. This is why a breakthrough at a retreat or a course can feel so real and so complete and then evaporate within 2 weeks of being home. It's not a failure of will. It's the system returning to its set point, its baseline. And that's homeostasis doing its job.
Yeah, that's how we were designed. And then there is this physiology of the emotion itself. And Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor, she's a neuroanatomist. She experienced a major stroke and spent years studying the recovery of her own brain. And she identified something about how emotions actually work that I have not been able to stop thinking about since I first encountered it. The chemical experience of an emotional reaction in the body lasts, are you ready for it? 90 seconds. So every time you have a thought, you create a chemical. If your thoughts are emotion heavy, it's an emotional reaction to something, is in your body for 90 seconds. That's how long it takes for the emotion to move through your bloodstream and then flush from your bloodstream.
90 seconds of chemistry.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Everything after that is a thought that you're thinking that is re-triggering the response again. So if you've been mad for a week, I just want you to think about how many times you did that to you, because it's done. The physical effect of the emotional response is over. Everything past those 90 seconds is a choice, conscious or not, to keep firing that circuit. The story you're telling yourself about a situation is what sustains the emotional state, not the original emotion. I'm not saying all emotions are beautiful. Lucky us as humans that we are here to experience all of them. But nobody is out there choosing anger because it feels good or is good for your physiology. So the story you're telling yourself about a situation is what is sustaining the thing you're feeling that you don't want to feel. It's not the original emotion.
Buddhism arrived at this same truth over 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's called the second arrow. Pain is part of life. Hard things happen to all of us, happen for all of us. Hard things happen. They just do. That's the first arrow. You can't always choose whether it lands or not, but suffering, the kind that compounds, that replays, that becomes a permanent state rather than a passing experience, that's the second arrow. That's the one that you shoot yourself. Every time you retell the story, every time you re-encounter the emotion past those 90 seconds, every time you choose consciously or not to stay in that, and not choosing is choosing.
Yes, not choosing is still choosing. I love it when you say that. And then if we go to neuroscience, one of my favorite things, in neuroscience terms, Hebb's law, or Hebbian law sometimes, explains what happens when you do that repeatedly over and over and over again. So many of us are doing it unconsciously. So neurons that fire together wire together. You've heard me say it. You've heard Dr. Joe Dispenza say it. You hear it all the time. But that's Hebbian law. So every time you run that emotional loop, you make the pathway more efficient. You make it more automatic, more like the default setting. You are literally building neurological infrastructure in your brain for the state that you keep returning to. You're doing that.
And this brings us to the piece that almost never gets talked about too. The piece that I think is the real reason that external fixes don't produce lasting change, even when they are good things. You cannot think your way into a new nervous system. That's the root of it.
Say that again, because I want people to really hear that.
You cannot think your way into a new nervous system. You cannot read your way there. You cannot understand your way there. I have patients all the time who are like, I just need to understand and know the things. And it's so helpful to have the understanding because you're building awareness, but you can't understand your way there to a new nervous system. The nervous system learns through experience, through repetition, through actually practicing the felt sense of a new state, not just understanding intellectually what is possible. Insight happens in the mind, but the nervous system was not part of that conversation. And until it is, the old wiring stays dominant.
Yeah. We say language or words are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body. We have to feel. So this is that retreat breakthrough that disappears in 2 weeks, right? It's the therapy session that cracks something open and then closes again by Thursday. So the insight was real. The shift was real in the moment, but the nervous system was not trained to hold the new state. So it returns to what it knows.
And training your nervous system to hold the good stuff, to be able to hold joy, abundance, safety, love, without contracting back to the familiar moment when things get quiet. That's a massive part of the real work. And it's the part that gets skipped most often because it's not a product. It's not a program or a framework or a weekend. It's a daily, consistent practice of creating that felt experience of the state that you want to live in, breathing into it, sitting with it long enough and often enough that your system stops registering it as foreign and starts registering it as home, building your capacity.
Yeah. Home, sweet home. I feel it just as you're saying it. So the goal is not just to know that you deserve better. We all know that. You know that. The goal is for your nervous system to agree with you. Okay. So we have spent some time being gentle with you. I hope that felt gentle because we're going to stay gentle, but we also want to tell you something true and we are going to say it directly to you. Dr. Desiree is always the one who says it, but I'm going to say it this time, so maybe you'll hear it differently. Here it goes. The truth. Nobody is coming to save you. Not the next practitioner, not the next modality, not the next relationship, not the next program, protocol, supplement, retreat. None of it. Nobody is coming. Repeat it to yourself and feel it.
Yeah. There's that quote that I saw, and it said, "Nobody is coming to save you. You are the adult."
Yeah.
I am so sorry. And we say this having both been that person, because we both have been. And we've both spent real time looking outside of ourselves for the thing that was finally going to fix it. For you, Brandy, with your autoimmune condition and learning to really be yourself and be healthy. And for me, the same thing, going through post-concussive syndrome. And really the root of it was when I paid attention to my nervous system and recreated that. Recreated what it felt like to have a new homeostasis of love, joy, abundance, peace, happiness, not frantically rushing around for no reason.
Yeah. We have to take radical control of our health. And this is part of health. And I think, Dr. Des, you and I both value health. It's on our top, top 3 for sure on our list of values. And if you haven't thought about your values in a while, it's a whole other episode. But just think, if you value health, this is part of it. It's not just the workout and the food and the things that we see as our everyday. We're going to sleep anyway. This is the next step beyond that. I want to talk about Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl survived the Nazi concentration camps and became one of the most important voices in the 20th century psychology. He wrote something that I come back to more often than almost anything else that I have ever read. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom, which brings me to my second thing I value more than anything else. I value health more than anything else. And second is freedom. So many people think they need more money. It's not the money. The money's not going to get you what you want. What you actually are looking for is the freedom that money might get you, or you think it might get you. But when we want this freedom, just think about that. When you have that space, you have power. Something happens to you. There's going to be stress. There's going to be a conversation. There's going to be something coming at you all the time for the rest of your life. How you respond to it is your choice. And that little space between the stimulus and response is your power. That is where your freedom lies. Every external fix tries to change the stimulus or to numb the response. So much numbing going on out there, but it never touches that space in between. That space in between is the only territory where anything actually changes. And it feels uncomfortable for people. That space belongs entirely to you. It shouldn't be uncomfortable for you in there. No one can ever take that from you, and no one else can use it for you. It's just for you.
The Stoic philosophers said it slightly differently, but arrived at the same place. Epictetus taught that it's not the events that disturb us, but our judgments about the events. 2,000 years ago, the same truth. And here we are still as a culture pouring enormous energy into trying to manage the events rather than examining the judgments that we have about them.
Yes. Okay. So here's the part that requires some honesty. And it's honest because it's actually empowering, not because it is comfortable. Not doing anything is also a choice. So we say it all of the time. Not choosing is still choosing. So if you're thinking, I'm not going to do anything about this way that I feel, or the reactions I continue to have, or the low vibe energy that I'm sitting in all the time, not doing anything about it, you are choosing. That's still a choice. Staying in the pattern is a decision. Reaching for the next external fix, something outside of you, instead of turning inward, is a decision that you're making. You're still choosing. Avoiding the real work, because the real work requires sitting with that discomfort of your own reality. That is a decision. So every day that you do not change direction is a day you choose to continue in the direction that you were already going. And I guarantee it's going to get you to the same place you were yesterday, just repeating and repeating. We're not saying that to create shame for anybody. Shame keeps people stuck. We are saying it because the flip side of that truth is one of the most freeing things that there is. If not changing is a choice, then changing is also a choice. You have had agency this whole time, right? You've just been using it unconsciously to stay stuck.
And I think we should be clear here too, because this matters. We're not talking about blaming yourself for hard circumstances, because there is trauma and that's real. Difficult life experiences are real. Things happen to people that are not their fault, that are not fair. And none of what we are saying dismisses that. This is what we're talking about, is what you do with your story from there, whether you are the victim of your own history or the author of what comes next.
I like that. Be the author. Be the author. There is this question worth sitting with, and it's not a comfortable one, but what am I actually getting out of staying stuck? Craig said it to me one day in a low moment where, my health has been an ebb and a flow, just going between states of healing and wholeness for many, many years. And on the healing days where I'm in the state of healing today, and I might be feeling a little sorry for myself because I can't do what I want to do or feel what I want to feel, what am I actually getting out of that feeling? Because staying stuck is always serving something. Maybe it protects you from the risk of genuinely trying or falling short at something that really matters. Maybe staying where you are keeps you connected to people who need you to stay small. Maybe not fully committing means that you never have to find out what you are truly capable of and then be responsible for that. Feels scary to have to be big, to be you, to be all that you are here to be.
And the nervous system is protecting what is familiar. It's trying to keep you safe. Sometimes the familiar thing is the belief that you can't change, but that's not a truth. It's a pattern, and patterns can be rewritten.
Okay, everyone, real talk here for a second. Reishi is the one product in our whole lineup that both Dr. Desiree and I take without fail every single night. And not because we have to, because we really notice when we don't.
Oh yeah, and it is not subtle. It is the difference between lying in bed running through tomorrow's to-do list and actually feeling your body downshift.
Yes, that is exactly it. It's not a sedative. It doesn't knock you out. It just lets you land.
Yeah, and that's because of what's actually happening biologically. Reishi's calming effect comes down to compounds called triterpenes, specifically ganoderic acids that are unique to reishi. They're part of what's been studied for supporting the body's stress response system. You've heard of us say the HPA axis, and for helping the nervous system come down out of that wired, tight-chested state that a lot of us live in by default.
Which, if you're anything like me, can be most of the day, some days.
Yeah, it's most people's, but here's the part that nobody talks about. Those triterpenes are alcohol soluble. They're not water soluble. So a reishi tea or a hot water only extract is never going to give you meaningful levels of them. It'll give you beta glucans, which have their own awesome value, but you'll miss the exact compounds that are responsible for the calming effect that you're actually looking for.
Yeah, and this is why our reishi capsules are a 15-to-1 dual extract. That's super concentrated. They are hot water and alcohol extracted so that you're getting both the beta glucans and those triterpenes from the whole fruiting body. No mycelium grown on grain and always organic certified.
And the dose matters just as much as the extraction does. One capsule delivers 3,750 milligrams quantity crude equivalent. That is a real clinically relevant amount. It's not a sprinkle.
Yeah, no pixie dusting over here. And for me, it shows up first thing in the morning. I wake up and I don't have that heavy, dragging feeling, even on the nights that I didn't get a full 8 hours of sleep.
That is a really common early marker that people report. It's that shift from waking up tired to waking up feeling restored. It's one of the reasons that reishi tends to convert people into long-term mushroom nerds faster than almost anything else in this category.
Yes, so if your nervous system has forgotten what it feels like to actually settle, Or if you are lying awake, replaying your day at 11 o'clock at night, this is worth trying.
You can start with just one capsule about 30 to 60 minutes before bed and give it a couple of weeks, because this is nervous system retraining. It's not just a light switch.
Yeah, so head on over to aversiowellness.com and you can use code podcast15 for 15% off any order anytime. So that's podcast15 right at checkout.
There's a mushroom for every moment. And tonight, it might just be this one. Back to the show. Yeah, your brain is not fixed. For most of the 20th century, the dominant model in neuroscience held that the brain that you developed through early experience was largely the brain that you were working with for life, that the architecture was set, but that's wrong. Neuroplasticity, which is the brain's documented capacity to form new neural connections, reorganize existing patterns, and physically change in response to experience. It's one of the most well-established findings in modern neuroscience. It is science. It is a fact. Your brain is not a static structure. It's a living system that is being shaped right now by the way that you think, by what you practice, by what you choose repeatedly. There's this quote that says, "You are what you repeatedly do."
Yes.
And further to that, you are what you repeatedly think.
Yep. You are not what you are not what you want. You are what you are. So if you keep being in the, I know what I want, I know what I want, I know what I want, you're actually sitting in lack instead of just being what you are. So Hebb's law works in your favor. Neurons that fire together wire together. Every time you practice a new emotional state, a new thought pattern, a new way of responding, you are building new neural architecture, actual structure. And the old pathways, they don't disappear immediately, but they get quieter, like a path that you're not walking on anymore, growing over through the woods, right? They get quieter as the new ones get stronger. So it's not a metaphor. This is actual measurable biology. We can see it.
And there's a structure in the brain that's called the reticular activating system, the RAS. It is a network of neurons in your brainstem that filters incoming information. Every second, your brain receives far more sensory data than you can consciously process. The reticular activating system determines what reaches your awareness. And the primary thing that sets that filter is what you already believe to be true about yourself and the world. Think about it. When you see a yellow punch buggy and you notice that you see a yellow punch buggy, then you're going to start seeing more yellow punch buggies. So if you filter out and shift your beliefs, you're going to see more of that.
Yeah, this happened. We were out for sushi the other night, 3 of us, and I said to the person I was eating with, do a little neuroscience test with me. Okay, turn around and look at the wall in this beautiful restaurant we were at. And I want you to look at how much brown there is in here. There's a lot of wood in this room. And we had been talking about how beautiful the decor was in this place. But I said, okay, turn to your right. And for 30 seconds, I want you to just scan and look at how much brown there is in here. So we did it and then turned back to the table. And I said, now don't turn around again. What was yellow? And this person had been like scanning this space for 30 seconds, enough time to pick up everything, and could not tell me that there was a yellow flower. It was so obvious when you were looking for it, but we don't see what we're not looking for. That's the RAS. Such a great example, and you can do it to yourself anytime. You will see what you're looking for. Think about that. So if at the core you believe that you are someone things happen to, then your reticular activating system is actively filtering reality for evidence of that. It's surfacing the information that confirms the story and screening out the information that would challenge it. And not because the universe is working against you, because your own brain is confirming what you have told it is real. So shift the belief and the filter shifts. You begin to notice different things, different possibilities, different people showing up for you, not because the world changed. It was always there, because what you are available to perceive has changed. It's magic. If you go looking for good, you're going to find it. If you go looking for the negative things, you're going to find them. So you have to decide, what are you going to look for? It will be there. I promise.
Yeah, this is the neuroscience underneath what people mean when they say your thoughts create your reality.
Yeah.
It's not magical thinking. It's not passive wishing. It's the documented mechanism by which your internal narrative shapes your perception, and your perception shapes what you act on, and what you act on shapes what you build.
Yeah, elite athletes have understood the application of this for decades. I just watched a video yesterday. We're in the middle of the FIFA excitement here, and there's a beautiful ad out by Nike and how elite athletes use this to their advantage. I'm talking about mental rehearsal. Maybe we'll even link the video below. The practice of vividly imagining a future experience in detail, the sensations, the emotions, the physical reality of being in that moment activates many of the same neural pathways as actually living it. So in the ad that's out, we see a famous soccer player. Forgive me, I'm not a huge sports fan, so I can't remember the name of the athlete, but we see the athlete sitting at home on a couch wearing the soccer jersey, but all we see is this animated movement in the brain. And this athlete is in the stadium. We know that it's evening in the stadium. There's a slight rain in the stadium, and you can see this person sitting in their couch in their living room, but experience what that would feel like in the atmosphere. And then the ball arrives in the experience, and we see this person not looking at themselves, but looking down at their own feet as if it's being experienced through their eyes and starting to move the ball and control the ball. And then there's other, of course, athletes that come into the picture and what those motions would feel like and move like in the body. And of course, there's a goal that's scored. And the emotion, I could feel it. And I'm not even a soccer player, but the emotion in the moment of scoring that goal was, felt sitting on the couch in the living room the exact same as it would have been if it was happening in real life, which means that athlete taught their body ahead of the event happening what it's going to feel like. You're building the neurological network to your brain to a meaningful degree, cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined future and a real experience. That's neuroscience. And athletes have been using this forever because it works, which means that you out there listening right now can become neurologically familiar with a version of yourself that does not exist in your daily life yet. You can practice being that person before you actually are that person, and your brain will begin to believe it. So cool.
So cool. So when we talk about holding a clear vision of who you're becoming, we're not talking about a mood board. Although
No.
mood boards are fun, right? Do it if you like it. But what we're talking about is a daily practice of training your nervous system to call that state home, feeling what that person feels, making decisions from that person's perspective, building the internal experience before the external evidence has arrived. The external evidence follows, but the internal state comes first.
Yeah. So who are you rehearsing out there? Who you been rehearsing out there? Who are you rehearsing right now? Because you are rehearsing someone every single day. Every thought pattern that you return to, every emotional state that you practice, every story you tell yourself about who you are, that is a rehearsal. You get to choose. The only question is whether it is the person that you have been in the past, who you were yesterday, or is it the person that you are choosing to become, where you're going, your future self.
And we can tell you from our own experience, it's not theoretical.
No, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. So we call it conscious creation, and you're looking at the evidence of it. You're looking at the evidence of it. I could not wait for my health to feel grateful. That was a hard thing. So I did not feel great most mornings when I woke up. I was checking in with how bad my body felt. And guess what? The minute I went, how bad do I feel today? I felt pretty bad because I was looking for it. And all I had to do was change my first thoughts in the morning to start seeing the evidence. When I woke up and scanned for good instead, I was starting to rehearse who I wanted to be. I was consciously creating a body that I could be grateful for. And when I stood up in gratitude, felt the gratitude before my healing, I closed the window of the actual healing by what had taken me years of doing it the other way to become a very quick journey to the future I had seen and felt every morning as I woke up in that state. That is taking radical control of your health. And doesn't have to be just for health. That is Craig and I starting Aversio Wellness. What we chose for what abundance would feel like for us in our career, our relationships, our health, all of it. It's a rehearsal that took place long before it showed up here in reality. We had to live it. We had to feel it before it happened.
Yeah. And that's also how I came to Aversio Wellness and reconnecting with Brandy, reconnecting with you too, because I was in this weird shift of creating, shifting identities, going from being a student athlete and a student to, somebody, who am I outside of that? And something I really craved was community. I had a lot of great friends, but I was missing this felt sense of community, my people. And I meditated a lot on that,
Yeah.
of like feeling that sense of community and holding it in my mind and feeling it in my body before it arrived. And then one day,
Togetherness happened.
yeah, togetherness happened. And then,
Yeah.
it happens in fun, little surprising moments.
Yeah. Yeah. You've done it over and over. You also, created a fiance.
Mm,
You've
yeah.
created so much abundance for yourself in such a short time. What a beautiful journey to witness the things that you've created and to watch it happen. And it's not a coincidence, listeners. Two people here who independently did the work of becoming who they actually wanted to be and ended up back in each other's lives because of it. So one of us will think a thought and the other one says it out loud.
All the time.
How often? Every time. Like one brain, right? One brain. That is what it looks like when two nervous systems have been trained to operate from a place of genuine, what we will call coherence. So the outside starts to match the inside. The people in your life start to match the person that you've become, like a magnet. And the identity piece really matters here because it's the part that trips people up, even when they have all of the other things in place, this identity piece.
And you can't out action your identity. You can layer on every habit, every protocol, every practice that exists, and those are beneficial. But if at the core you are still believing that you are someone that things happen to, those actions will eventually circle back to confirm that belief.
Yeah.
Behavior follows identity. It's not the other way around.
Yeah. The work is identity level. It is asking yourself, who do I need to decide I am in order for this to become true? I'm going to repeat that. Who do I need to decide I am in order for this to become true? And the decision comes first, not the evidence, not the proof. You cannot hang out. If you were sitting around waiting for the proof, you are sitting around in lack, and people will live that way their entire life. And why? Why would you do that? Right? It's not going to be evidence if you don't create the evidence first and then become the match, right? It's not the results that will finally make it feel safe to believe. It's the decision. So there's a line from James Allen, and this was written in 1903, which means we're not talking about new woo-woo. This was a book called As a Man Thinketh, and it has helped us for over 100 years because it's simply true. Here's the quote. You are today where your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you.
I like that. Your thoughts aren't neutral. Your
No.
vision is not optional. The version of yourself that you hold in your mind is the one that your nervous system is practicing every single day, and you get to choose it.
Yeah, and that's not a burden. That's the most powerful thing there is. It makes me so excited. So the work is, it's not always comfortable. We're not going to lie. Sitting with the discomfort of your own reality instead of reaching for the next fix takes courage. It does. And we were born with it. Training your nervous system to hold something better than it has ever known takes consistency. Building a vision and choosing it on the days when nothing around you reflects it yet takes a kind of stubborn, quiet faith, and you have it in you. You were born with that stubborn, quiet faith to do it because nothing else actually works. I'm going to tell you, none of the rest of it. Sitting around and waiting for someone else to come save you or something outside of you to change, it's not going to work. We're saving you so much time by telling you, you have to build the vision. And you have to choose it, and you have to choose it, and you have to choose it over and over and over again. And it might be a week, and it might be a month, and it might be years. And it's going to be on the days when your world looks nothing like what you've been envisioning. And those are the days it matters the most.
You have always had a choice, even when it didn't feel that way. Even in the moments where the pattern felt completely automatic and the pull back to familiar felt impossible to resist. The space that Viktor Frankl described has always been there, but you were just learning to stand in it.
To stand in it. So, if today's episode landed somewhere real for you, if it's something in this conversation said out loud about what you have been quietly knowing, then we have one ask of you. That's not a rating or a review. I mean, we love those things. But the ask is just this. Please share this episode with one person in your life who really needs to hear it. And you already know who that is. You've been thinking of them the whole time. It's the person who's been trying everything and they're exhausted from the search, right? It's
Mhm.
exhausting to keep looking outside of yourself. It's the person who just needs someone to look them right in their eye and love them enough to say, you have more agency than you realize and it is not too late. I'm going to be 50 in less than a month. I'm still doing it every day. I didn't start doing it until my late 40s, I would say. It's not too late and it's never going to be too late. So send it to them. Do it.
Mhm.
Send it right now.
Until next time, friends, we'll see you in the next episode.
Be well, everyone. We love you.
Be well. And that's a wrap on today's unhinged episode of the Aversio Experience. These conversations sit close to our hearts. Stepping outside the structure and just being honest with you about what we're navigating, what we're learning, what we've gotten wrong, and what we're still figuring out. That's the kind of connection we started this podcast to create.
Yes, and we hope something in today's episode landed for you. And if it did, we hope that you will share it with someone in your life who will get it. That's genuinely how this community continues to grow. One person passing something meaningful on to another. And if you haven't yet left us a rating or review, subscribe to the podcast, or followed us on social media, we would so appreciate that. All of the links are right here in the show notes below. And that just helps us reach more people who need to hear this. And when you're ready to bring functional mushrooms into your daily ritual, you can head on over to aversiowellness.com and use podcast 15 at checkout. And that code will save you 15% on your order. And it's for our whole community, any order, anytime.
Thank you so much for sharing this moment with us, fungi friends. Until next time, be well.